But first things first, man. Who all heard that Method Man, Redman, and KRS collaboration live from the Meth Lab? What were your thoughts, brother?
It's lyrically very impressive. I mean, my immediate thought was kind of shady. I was kind of like, people think Method Man's not a 15, but that was my immediate thought
Method Man
because
sounded good on the record. And
I mean,
JoJo Pellegrino on the hook too. I don't want to forget anybody.
yeah, and I mean, mostly what came off to me was just how extremely well Method Man came off and how well KRS-One sewed things up at the end. Dope hip hop record made me kind of excited if this is going to be the lead single off of his project. Like, if he's making an album like this, like, I think it gets understated how gritty of an MC Method Man actually is. And if he's putting together a project kind of like hip hop oriented and gritty oriented, like, I'm excited. So,
It's a dope combination, man. It's wild that we're getting that this many years later, but I love it. I love it. And it's crazy when you think about New York MCs who have never collaborated with each other, and it's just so many of them though. And in their defense, it's just so many New York MCs. And even though Redman's from Jersey, I'd be remiss to say that, but when you think about KRS and just Wu-Tang, period, it's interesting that we're just now getting a collaboration like this, and I love it.
it's great for hip hop when they can come together and actually make a record that's actually like worth listening to, like it's notable. Like I mean, collaborations now are just kind of like part of the business, so they happen with frequency now. And so when you actually have people of their stature and of their lore like come together and make a dope record, like yeah, that matters.
But you know what? You said something there. This current generation of MCs, collaboration just second nature. And when you think of people that came up in previous eras, especially when you think about MCs that jump, from the 80s, and then with that jump the industry made in the 90s, it wasn't a lot of 90s MCs that were going back and collaborating with, the people that paved the way for them in the 80s. And if they can do it now, I think that's awesome.
No, that's why I always told you. That's why I always loved that. I mean, Nas did Fast Life with Cool G Rap when Cool G Rap was coming out with 456, because that's something really. If you kind of go and look at that era, what other up and coming legend did a song with a certified legend other than him?
And you have, and I know people will probably pull out, the Kane record where he had Old Dirty and Jay on there. What's the name of that song? You know what I'm talking about. It's
What is that? Hold on, is that on Veterans Day?
No, it was no. This was before that. This was before Reasonable Doubt. What's the song I'm thinking about? People in the chat, people in
Are you talking
the
about Big
Show
L?
Improve is what I'm thinking about.
Huh?
Show Improve.
Show Improve.
Yeah, Show Improve.
Can't put that. What year is that?
Show Improve. I
But
want
yeah,
to.
but Jay is not Jay then yet, Mike.
Yeah, that was on. No, Jay's not Jay yet then, but I'm just saying those are the closest things we have to it. And Show Improve was, I'm gonna look it up on the show. Show Improve. That had to be 93-ish, but let me look and see real quick.
Well, in my lifetime ish.
No, definitely. But again, that's Kane's song. 95, yes. No, 94. Somebody in the chat said 95. But yeah, it's 94. Show Improve is 94. So the closest thing that we had to things like that was like when Kane did Show Improve and you had Old Dirty on there, you had Jay on there. But these are the older MCs at the time. And it's crazy to say somebody in their late 20s at the time was older. But the more veteran MCs at the time putting on the new class. It wasn't really much of once the new class got on that they were, doubling back, making records with Rakim, KRS, and all that. So if they can do that now, I think that's awesome.
I think it's just
and it's not even really reaching back now. Now everybody's just veterans.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking like, those things used to be a thing. Like getting the symphony together was a thing. Like even getting like John Blaze together was a thing. When Nas like crept into the Wu-Tang in '95 and got on Verbal Intercourse, like that was a thing, And so it's those things aren't so much anymore. and it kind of affects albums too. Like, and we can kind of talk about it because I know we're going to talk about Vince's album and Fabio's album, and like Fabio's album is really collaboration heavy.
Yeah.
Vince's is not. And we can break down the dichotomy about how that played out with their respective projects.
Somebody's trolling. They said Kane was part of the commission. You guys are hilarious. Shout out to Blue Collar Hustler out here with the super chat. He said, I know y'all heard the Black Star news. No Fear, No Time, May 3rd on the Luminary app. I'm sorry, the podcast app Luminary. Yes, we did hear about the fact that Black Star has a release date now. I credit Coop for getting it out of him. You know, I think our conversation possibly did something. And, you know, and you guys probably reacting. And we finally got a Black Star date after 24 years. I'm excited about it. We're going to talk about it in a second. But we'll get to that in a second because that's like a whole segment in itself. Because I have some thoughts on the release of it and, you know, how it could be done. And some of you guys' feedback on it. But yeah, the Method Man, Redman, and KRS collaboration, I like it. And like you said, if this is more of what we're going to hear from this Meth project, I'm with it. I think one of the things with Method Man's projects, what would you say the Method Man's projects, solo projects, have lacked in the past where people say their shortcomings are? Would you say production? Because that's where I go.
Only production in the sense that I don't think he's picking the beats that necessarily are best for him. But I'm going to say this, like, the ability to put the whole song together. Like, he needs to make consistently dope songs. You know, like he flashes too much on his albums where it's like you see his brilliance. You know, like Tical, in retrospect, is way better than we originally thought. And even that is not an appropriate measure of his talents. Okay?
Of course.
And so, yeah, I just want to see him flash all the way, you know, not in moments. You know what I'm saying? Because if you even listen to Tical now, those beats aren't bad. Like, you don't like Biscuits? You don't like Release Your Delph? You don't like Bring the Pain?
I think, you know, the thing about Tical is the fact that Method Man was coming from the Wu-Tang, coming off of 36 Chambers. He's the star of that group, and the expectations were extremely high. And then when that dropped, not soon after, you get these classic solo albums from the other people in the group. And I think that's where the criticism from Tical mostly comes from. And it's not fair. It's honestly not fair.
Right, so that was the thing, because if memory serves, it got 4 mics in the source, so it's not like it got a low rating. They gave Into the Wu-Tang 4.5. I mean, obvious mistake.
Do you? Let me stop you there. Do you think the expectations were for Method Man to come out the gate with a 5 mic album?
Ooh, so when is that? Is that December of '94? Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well,
the standards are crazy.
That's what I mean. So this is what I mean. So
you got Illmatic that year, and you got Ready to Die that year. So it's like
right. And what did I? And we had a show where I said, well, who were the top 3 MCs coming out of New York in '94? Nas, Big, Method Man. So yeah, was he maybe held to unfair circumstances because he's getting compared to Illmatic, Ready to Die,
and the 36 Chambers? Yeah,
right. So like I mean, arguably nobody's ever been under those types of expectations. Bring the Pain is still one of the greatest rap songs of all time.
I think so.
Yeah, no. It's not a question of that. It is. It spawned the 2 versions of I'll Be There For You that I still think is one of the 10 best hip-hop songs ever. Still the best hip-hop love song ever. And so, like, it still did a lot of things, you know?
And I'll Be There For You is the best hip-hop love song ever?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. You know what? I'm starting to come around to that because I'm going to be honest. I think that I would have to give that song the credit that, how do I say this? Because I know people are going to go to the first, but I think this song gets that credit for marrying hip-hop and R&B on a grimy level. Not on the New Jack Swing level or anything like that, but on a grimy level. And this is part of why we call Mary J. Blige the queen of hip-hop soul, right? Obviously, she was a singer that was rhyming over hip-hop beats, but this song did a lot for that narrative, and I would have to say it basically paved the way for, like, you know, DMX doing How's It Going Down and stuff like that.
It paved the way for a lot of things because more
Yeah.
than anything, the images they gave you were real and relatable, and so are the words. As much as like "I Need Love" is like a great single, it sounds like LL writing a great hit single.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like something about "I'll Be There for You" feels more organic and natural. And then there's the eternal play of where you just took the Marvin and Tammy sample, so our parents know it and their parents know it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so that people forget that's the part of gravity to that too, where it's like, well, they kind of snagged the older generation with that record too. That's why it's the best love song, hip hop love song ever.
And then they didn't do it in a way where they like took the music from that you
Right.
were familiar with. They came on some grimy shit and they threw this chorus over this beat where it sounded almost haunting or whatnot.
Right, and it wasn't corny.
Shout out to Rigorall7 with the super chat. He said, "Peace, my brothers. Tical is a rare case where it wasn't quite 5 mics, but still a classic. That shit is dope, and set the Wu-Tang solo standards." You know, we did early on in our show's life, we did an episode where we were ranking, all the Wu-Tang albums, like top 10 Wu-Tang albums, and that was counting the group albums, solo albums, and I left Tical off the top 10. My decision was between The Pillage and Tical, and I personally put The Pillage over Tical. Now, if somebody feels the other way around, I ain't mad at that because obviously The Pillage doesn't have "I'll Be There for You" or "Bring the Pain" on it. But I think collectively, through and through, I like The Pillage more than I like Tical. I sat there and listened to them side by side before we did that show too.
You did?
I did, and I was like, I can't put Tical over The Pillage. I love The Pillage. Maybe I'm just biased. I like Capadonna a lot.
Okay.
Rick Ross said, "You wildin'." Yeah.
You are. Do you remember? You know what I realized too? So you know who was forever really affected by the Wu-Tang slug? It really was Inspector Deck, because you know what one of the most often forgotten things about Tical is I think everybody else's heads, we remember Meth versus Chef, because it's like, oh, these guys are really fighting for beats. Like we like speculate and like thought. It's like, yeah, these guys are fighting for beats and rhyming over them. Mr. Sandman with RZA and Inspector Deck, and it made me think, like, hold on, Deck is on Tical. That means they had Deck high up in the queue, which means that flood and him losing uncontrolled substance knocked him down in the queue. Because if you were to go off of that, because I mean, I think Old Dirty Bastard was just something else, and they just recorded his album in about 3 days. Yeah, and that wasn't a problem.
That's a crazy album, and I love it.
Me and Jizza got the. I really feel like they just let him do what he wanted. RZA and Jizza was like, "Go ahead, we got the rest of this."
But can I play devil's advocate here, though? It seems like, I mean, again, I know the flood is, I mean, that is something that's terrible to have to deal with, to lose those songs, lose the DATs, lose the data, and those sessions. It's deflating is what it is. Mm-hmm. But other MCs were able to recover from it. Method Man, like you said, suffered greatly from that flood because he lost a lot of songs. And a lot of momentum.
And had to record on the tour bus.
Yes.
Right. So was never put in optimal circumstances. So
he was under the gun in ways that Deck really wasn't, because even after that, Deck didn't come out until 99.
Right, but it's just because you want to know what? I mean, this is what I mean about being in the queue. Well, you know after Into the Wu-Tang that Method Man and Dirty are stars. And so you know that. So you know their albums are coming. Like, that's obvious. If you didn't know, it's like when they did the SWV remix, that's like when you knew. It's like, okay, like they're getting the R&B remix and it's happening for those two guys. But Ray's Purple Tape probably shifted everything. You know what I'm saying?
You know, Ray was already, all right, look, Ray and Deck are on Cream. So boom, like you said, Deck's in the queue. He's up high.
Deck's in the queue.
Ray pulled a Michael Bibbins on him, you know what I'm saying? It was like, look, me and you Ghost, let's team up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And they found chemistry with that. and they dropped the classic. And when they did that, that bumped Ghost up in the queue.
Right, that's what I mean. So I think the original queue is probably Meth, Dirty, Ray, Deck,
If
and
not
then
Deck Ray, because whoever's on Cream is probably high in the queue.
right. No.
Yeah.
I'm thinking they're both in the queue, and they're going to put Jizza back in cleanup, and Jizza's going to go fifth and not fourth. Actually, you feel what
Well,
I'm
yeah,
saying?
Jizza's
No,
already there. It's like whenever you ready, Jizza.
whenever
Yeah.
you're ready.
Yeah.
Right. So you got Meth and Dirt because those are the obvious stars. Who's on Cream? Well, Ray and Deck. So then you got Ray and Deck in the queue. Purple Tape changes everything because Ghost is obviously a star, and it's obviously gotten better. And so now it's like, oh shit, let's do this Liquid Swords thing, and then we got to drop Ghost album.
Exactly. Yeah, because the
by the
Purple
time
Tape
that
was.
happened,
Go ahead.
no, by the time that happened, it's time to come back together again.
Exactly. Yep. But see, that's why Deck was coming so strong on Wu-Tang Forever.
Yeah,
Trying
because
to
he
get
was
that spot back.
This is what I mean. So what happened? Because he was supposed to come right after Wu-Tang Forever, and then we got the pillage.
Jordan House says it was going to be Deck after Genius. I never really thought about these things on these terms, but yeah.
I didn't think about it until I heard Mr. Sandman on Tical. I'm like, they put Deck on Tical. Like everything RZA did early on is some of the most strategic stuff in hip hop history.
Listen, man, he plays chess. He played chess with DJ Premier in that Versus. He did.
He did.
He straight up played chess with him, man. I wish we could get like a recreated version of that Versus because the sound wasn't that good that night, right? But the way that one was played, I think that might have been the best play on a Versus that we've seen because it was so strategic and RZA was coming with haymakers right when he needed to.
Told you he can fade anybody. He's got classic hip hop stuff with Method Man, Old Dirty Bastard, Raekwon, and Ghostface on it.
Well, I told you he was gonna beat Premier. I know a lot of people denied it on our page when we put the poll out there, but you know, it is what it is.
I told you, like, Premier had to lean on that Nas, Big, and Jay stuff, and I think he did, and I think he still lost.
I think Premier's issue is the fact that he has so much great stuff spread all around. And, you know, when he played that Christina Aguilera, Ain't No Other Man against RZA, I was like, that's not a good choice. Now, I know and I kind of came across this when we were doing mock verses, the other day, when I had Ludacris, because I'm like, I can't play any of these pop songs, really, against T.I., but if I don't play some of them, people are going to be like, where's Runaway Love? Where's this and that? So, yeah, I mean, I still don't think Premier should have played Ain't No Other Man against RZA. He has too much grimy shit to pull from. But I could see how a producer with his catalog could have those kind of problems. We knew what RZA was going to play. It was no mystery.
Right.
Speaking of verses, you put me onto a clip that was on Math Hoffa's podcast where they were talking to Kane. Omar Epps was there. And like I was telling you offline, man, I was watching Brown Sugar not too long ago and thinking, man, this role should have been for Omar Epps, man. I knew Omar Epps, a hip-hop fan. I follow him on social media. He posts all kind of classics and stuff. So anyway, he's sitting there talking to Kane, and he asked Kane straight up, like, the verses that we wanted was, you know, no disrespect to KRS, the verses that everybody wanted was the Kane and Rakim verses. And he asked Kane why that didn't happen in that way. And Kane gave a great answer. He said, you know, if we were all stuck in the house during quarantine time and me and Rod were playing our individual songs from our house, that would have played much better. But once verses got to the stage, he felt like KRS on a performance level will be his best matchup. And you know what? I actually agree. And cause we saw all three of those guys perform back to back to back. We went to a concert last year, me and Coop. Kane went on first. Well, not first, but first of the three. There was also Kumo D there, and who else was there? Kwame was there. I'm thinking it was it was Kwame, Kumo D, right? And then Kane went.
Yeah.
Then KRS went.
Yep.
And then Rakim went last.
And so
And so Kane and KRS, I mean, everybody at the concert walked away feeling like KRS sucked the energy out of the room before Rakim could get on stage, to be perfectly honest, as a performer. And so I can understand where Kane's coming from when he was saying that as far as stage performance, that was the best matchup. But when we talk about catalog and how your songs match up, I, as a hip hop fan, feel like I would have rather have heard Kane and Kane and Rakim match up sonically, and stage wise, catalog length wise, KRS and LL Cool J.
I think I agree with you for the most part about all those things. I think, for what we saw, and I think we talked about this just from the reaction to the crowd. So if you're going to base it on what the crowd's reaction was, well, Rakim should have went before Kane, and he should have went before KRS, and here's why. And then, Mike, and you probably noticed this too. Everybody knew the words to Rakim's songs more than they knew Kane and KRS's, but were way more energetic about Kane and KRS's performance because they're better performance. And this is a live show. And so while we all knew the words to Rakim's songs, word for word, like literally people were chanting his stuff word for word, performance wasn't as impressive. And it's like when you put that into play, it's like, well, no, I'm going to let you get that out. And actually, that's a great way to warm up the crowd and get them ready for Kane and KRS stage-wise.
Well, I slightly disagree with you. I think that Rakim should have went between Kane and KRS, and I think KRS should have closed it. The energy that KRS brings to the stage, man, no matter how great your records are, if you're not matching that vocal strength and energy, it's like I said, he can suck the energy out of an audience. And I've seen Rakim perform before, and Rakim's songs are so powerful, like you said. The whole crowd's gonna sit here and rap all of the words for Ra. He don't have to do anything up there. Like the songs actually perform themselves.
They really do. They really do. Like when Eric B. as president comes on, everybody starts doing the WAP, and I came and
Yeah, he doesn't have to perform that, but see, KRS doesn't really have that, but he's performing it himself and giving it to you. And it's like,
you know what it is? KRS has moments in his songs like that. Rakim has whole songs like that.
No, you're right.
Like, KRS-One has dee-dee-dee-da, dee-dee-dee-da-dee-day.
Yeah.
All like he has those, but he doesn't have like the whole songs where people are literally saying the whole verse, word for word, song after song, like we just saw.
No. He knows when to get crowd participation, and like you said, I feel like KRS writes his songs for that. Like he's writing his songs to put in, like he probably writing a song and then putting in there, okay, possible crowd participation right here. You know what I'm saying? Like even the way that he was performing the records, he was performing songs that's production was meant for live audiences.
No. We talked about that too. The way his beats were hitting and the way they were falling. It's like you want to know it. He does this strictly for the live crowd. He has the live audience in mind when he goes into the studio to record.
When MCs act like they don't know. When that shit dropped, it was like, whoa.
That's that's a primo classic, Mike. That's an instant primo classic.
It is.
Amazing stuff.
Amazing stuff.
What did he just say on this last joint with Method Man? Like Cali dude say I'm bugging because I bum rushed the show with new chucks and new flavors. It's like I'm like, oh my god! I'm like, this dude's been rapping my whole life. He still got bars like that. Like it's crazy.
KRS is rapping hard out here in 2022, man.
Oh, speaking of which, you want to know what? That reminds me. We need to add his album to the list of albums that are going to make next year's yearbook. Yeah.
Shout out to everybody coming in the room. We're actually going to go through this yearbook that we just released. Actually, you can go on Amazon and cop it now. 2021 yearbook, and we're going to go through it, some of it today, just to highlight some of the awards that were given, because really, you guys wrote this book. And, we were just the vessels who were able to put it together in a tangible form to put it out there to you guys. But yeah, it's on Amazon. We're going to speak to it a little bit more in length, a little bit later in the show.